Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I am your host, Brenda Reese. Now, this is a space where we are honest with ourselves, where we gently peel back the layers of shame, resentment, and self-judgment, and where we learn to come home to ourselves even when life hasn't gone the way we planned. Today's conversation is for anyone who has ever felt betrayed by their own body. I know I have. And this is also for anyone who has whispered, "Why can't you just work right?" For anyone who has pushed through pain, minimized symptoms, or silently carried the grief of lost capacity. I'm honored today to talk with our guest, Tami Stackelhouse. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Tami is an award-winning author, founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute, host of the Fibromyalgia Podcast, which I've heard and is wonderful, Tami. And she's the executive producer of the feature documentary Invisible. She teaches people with fibromyalgia how to take back control of their lives and health using her signature fibromyalgia wellness framework so that they can break free from the prison their bodies have become and begin living lives they love. You know what moves me the most about Tami's work is she doesn't teach people how to fight their bodies. She teaches them how to stop fighting, so they can begin leading their healing with clarity, compassion, and structure, which allows them to reclaim a life that feels meaningful. What she does so beautifully is she walks beside people as they restore their lives by creating safety, by creating structure, and by discovering a personalized path forward that actually honors who they are and where they are. And that shift from war to partnership is where forgiveness begins. Tami, welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too, and I love that we're kind of neighbors.
Yes.
It is so nice, like we said, to talk to somebody like local.
I know.
So cool. So cool. So I would like to start with, what is fibromyalgia? Because your story is phenomenal. And I want to get into that too. But I thought, like we talked about before, because some people don't know, they may not be familiar with it. And like I said, I heard about it for a long time, but then silence.
Yes. It's such a tragedy. We can go back more than 200 years and see full descriptions of fibromyalgia in medical literature. It was called something else then, but 200 years. We should be way farther along than we are right now.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah. So fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition. Right now, it kind of lives in the College of Rheumatology, but it's not really a rheumatological disorder. It's more a matter of nervous system changes. So it's probably a little more neurology, but your neurologists weren't taught that either. So,
right.
We're a little bit of a condition without a home. But the primary symptoms of fibromyalgia are widespread body pain, and it's a pain that moves around. So you might have one part of your body hurt one day and something else hurt the next day, and your doctor looks at it and, runs x-rays, MRIs, all the things. Everything looks normal. So it's not like something like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus where there's actual damage happening to the body. It's more, like I said, it's more of a nervous system, how our brain is processing the sensations and interpreting them as pain. We can talk more about that. But widespread body pain, we have unrefreshing sleep. So with someone with fibromyalgia, we can sleep for hours and wake up and feel like we didn't sleep at all. And that's actually a hallmark of fibromyalgia, that we have this unrefreshing sleep. And again, we can talk more about that if you want, but we also have fatigue. And as you just saw in that moment, brain fog.
Right?
So cognitive dysfunction. And they all really work together to sort of make each other worse too. If you don't get good sleep, of course you're tired. Of course you hurt. Of course your brain doesn't work. right? And they all kind of work together in that way of amplifying each other. I think the thing about fibromyalgia that, a lot of people will have fibromyalgia and something else. And I think it's important to know that, because it's not your pain is fibromyalgia or your pain is something else. You can have both. The fibromyalgia piece is the piece that takes whatever you're experiencing and turns the volume knob up. So fibromyalgia is an amplifier. So if you've got a bad knee from a skiing accident or whatever, then that is going to hurt more in someone with fibromyalgia, and it's going to not just hurt in your knee, the rest of your body is going to hurt as well. So it kind of just expands that pain. So it's really important that both sides of that, if you have fibromyalgia, to get rid of all the other things as best as possible to not just treat the fibromyalgia, but also treat the bad knee, right? And vice versa. If you have a bad knee, it's also important that we get the fibromyalgia under control so that your pain is at the level it's supposed to be, not this amplified, not real sort of number. And I said the words not real. I just want to be super clear. I'm not saying fibromyalgia isn't real. Right. I'm saying that your nervous system is taking a pain that someone else might experience at a 2, and we literally experience double. So we would be experiencing at a 4 what someone else would experience at a 2. So that's really what I mean.
Well, yeah. So that sounds like, I remember it being called the invisible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
they called it a
invisible
disease, like invisible disease. And it sounds, what you were just describing. It's, just thinking of not having anybody that can tell you what something is, like when, like you and I started when we talked before hit record, my sister had gone through, I'm sure you had. And this is like systematic, right? It's like a systematic.
Yes. Yes. And at the same time, you run all these labs, you take the x-rays, you do the MRIs, like you can't see evidence of it. And that's part of this whole invisible illness. Not only is it invisible, like my fibromyalgia is invisible to you, right?
Yes.
You would look at me and never know. But it's also invisible to our medical providers, right? Because there is no single test to definitively say you have fibromyalgia. It's more looking at the whole picture of things and saying, there are some diagnostic criteria, but there isn't a definitive test. And then the other third piece of this invisibleness is then we feel invisible, right? Because we're not feeling seen and understood and all of that.
Well, I'm probably feeling a little crazy.
Yes. I hear that a lot, that it's really nice for people when they, talk to somebody like me to be like, oh, you mean I'm not crazy? No, you're not. This is a real deal. It's a real thing.
Well, and I would imagine too, do you find with the people that you work with, is it mainly women or is it men and women?
It is both. Right now, more women are being diagnosed than men. It's like 7.7% of women, 4 point something, I don't remember, 4 point something percent of men. But just Tami opinion here. I think it's probably more equal than we know, because if you think about any man in your life, how easily do they go to the doctor? They don't. Right? And so they are not going to be diagnosed as easily. And also fibromyalgia is still seen as a woman's illness. So if a guy goes to the doctor and is complaining about pain, they don't think fibromyalgia, they think something else. So I think, years and years and years from now, we'll probably see that it's probably more equal.
Well, especially because what caught me was when you said nervous system. And, we all have a nervous system.
That's right.
And with everything, personally, I know that they say women, carry more things and we do more things. So our nervous system is a little bit more sensitive. I've heard, you hear all the things. But I agree with you that the men just aren't, they just don't think that it could be they don't want it to be something for,
Right. Right.
you know.
My husband said to me the other day, he was complaining about his shoulder hurting. And he's like, I can't even lift my shoulder. And I'm like, dude, I would have gone to the doctor so long ago.
Right.
It never would have gotten to the point where I can't lift my arm.
Absolutely. I know. Oh, I'm so there with you. I'm so there with you.
Oh, goodness.
I was curious about something too. So with feeling like crazy and going to doctors and having nothing show up, do you find that the women and men that you work with carry shame around this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because we do start to feel like we're crazy, right? And we're also, anytime somebody is dealing with chronic pain, one of the things that will come up is this a drug seeker? Right? Somebody who's just looking for pain meds to abuse.
Yeah.
Right? And so I remember when I got a new doctor, I was actually going to finally get a diagnosis. Like I was gearing for battle. I wrote down all the things I had tried. I wrote down like my whole history. I put together basically like a whole presentation on why I'm not crazy. Right?
I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. And I think that can be driven by that thoughtful of shame, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like I have to prove myself because I think that, I'm having I'm feeling it, but you're saying that it's not real or you can't figure it out. But it's something here. Yeah, it would be that because, and I think before we get into your story, I think that this is like self-forgiveness, right? Like we talked about.
Yeah.
And there's a couple big topics I know we want to kind of touch on, and the self-forgiveness in this chronic illness world or in this arena. I'm going to call it an arena. So how do you see that show up? Like, I guess, where do you see that they're hardest on themselves?
Oh, goodness. Yes. I would say the people that I see that are the hardest on themselves and who are carrying the most shame are the moms with fibromyalgia, right? Because there's this picture that society has and that they have and their families have about what being a good mom looks like, right? And they can't do that. Right? They can't, bake the cupcakes for the birthday party. They can't go to all the things. They can't sit on the bleachers in the cold, for the game all the time. Right. And so there is a lot of shame with that. So I think our moms are the ones who are carrying probably the biggest burden there. Wives, friends, the relationship shame, right? Of not being able to be the wife, the sister, the friend that you want to be because maybe you're canceling things last minute or all the things that go with that, right? Just a lot of these cultural expectations, societal expectations, our own expectations. I especially see this coming up for the cultures who have a very strong work ethic, right? Where like, if you don't sit around and rest, you're doing something, you're working, you're cleaning the house, you're earning money, you're, whatever it is. Right. And so there is all of that we carry with us. And it would be hard enough without that. Right.
Yes. Well, and I think that fits into because a lot of the audience here, the listeners, are midlife women.
Yeah.
And we have a little issue with that anyway. As far
True
as
story.
whether it's societal or familial or running or trying to prove ourselves, and we're at this beautiful time. I feel that a lot of us are finally kind of going, I'm tired of that, and and I don't feel well. I'm tired all the time. I've got these issues that some of these women that I work with didn't address.
That's
Right.
right.
And
Yep.
it's like, physiologically and physically, and we have to see what's there and slow down a little bit and listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when we get to this age too, we're kind of, it's that sandwich generation, right?
Yes.
Where we've got older parents, our kids may be, grown and off on their own, but they're still
Right.
your kids.
Oh
right?
yeah, there's still needs there.
And so it's a lot to carry. And I think when we get to this point, we finally get tired enough and maybe a little bit more space to be able to say, something's got to give, right? I have to do
Yes.
something different now.
Yes. And a lot of people, they don't know what to do.
That's right.
Right. And that's why, where I feel forgiveness comes in. There's so many things that, like we talked about, where it's just chronic. There's a lot of issues that, like, I was dealing with after surgeries that I just kept pushing through.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, why? And then menopause, well, my body's broken, and why isn't it working? It's not the same anymore. Nobody tells me about this. But, there's a lot of blaming. There's a lot of blaming that goes on. I imagine you have that with people that you work with around the symptoms, or for me, I think it was not being able to do things anymore.
Yes.
That I was able, like you mentioned with the moms, oh my goodness. But all of us, I think too, but I think there's expectations and pressures, but also of working women. I mean, all of us, most of us are working women. And there is that we carry the weight of the whole thing, the house, the kids,
Yes.
And some people are very fortunate to have a spouse that works with them. And my clients usually don't. And so it's like when I look at self-blame, how does that show up for the people that you work with?
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, knowing that we were going to talk about this, and I don't really have the right words, but there's like two categories, I think, where blame falls.
Okay.
One is on the typical things you would think of, right? Like, these people are expecting things from me and I have to say no. They think I'm a flake. I've got these responsibilities. I can't say no. I have to say yes. Like those kinds of things. But I think there's another category that we don't talk about often enough, which is, it's all blaming ourselves, but there's this more secret inner category where it's things like, it's my fault I'm in this position. Right?
Ooh.
Like, I made myself sick. I didn't take care of myself when I should have. Right? All of that. Like, I think that is just, like I said, we don't talk about it enough and it's so heavy. Right?
Oh, yeah, you hit me in the gut with that one.
Yeah.
I carried that for so long. And then especially if you are into the holistic world, where it's like, okay, I believe that I create my own reality, or I'm doing these things. That can be even worse.
Yes.
And, it just compounds it. And then of course, everything, and the way some of us were raised, it is, you need to handle that. You need to take care of that. It's your fault if you do certain things. And it's like, I did it. And I think as women, especially when it comes to self-forgiveness, we automatically take it in first for control. I can, if it's me, I can control it.
Right. Or we think we can.
We think we can. That's the thoughts. That's the thoughts. We think we can.
Yeah.
When really all we're trying to do is feel safe. All we're trying to do is kind of we want to be nurtured and taken care of and listened to and heard. Yet we feel like if I take it on, so it's nobody else's fault if I take it on. We don't realize that inside of our head, we've got the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the witnesses, the perpetrator, victim. We've got all that here. So it's hard. We can't, who's forgiving whom kind of thing here.
Yeah.
And we can't ever come to any conclusion or, so then we compound the blame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree
Now,
completely.
how do you work with people with forgiveness?
So I don't do the kind of work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I am a health coach by training. The work that I do is sort of this intersection of health coaching, a little bit of life coaching,
Nice.
medical education, peer support, right? Like all of that. And me personally, just my own personal bent is a little bit more, scientific, let's say. Okay. So when I'm working with clients who are dealing with this, I'm looking more at how do we change the habit? Let's look at the evidence. Okay. And so, there's I like that. Several different ways we can approach problems. One is change the thoughts, which change our actions, which change our outcomes. Yeah. I kind of flip that around. If we change our actions, it will also change our thoughts and change our outcomes. So that's more the approach that I take. And, looking at things like I actually just recorded a podcast episode on how to ask for help more gracefully. And one of the things that we have to realize is asking for help, that self-forgiveness is part of that, right?
Yes.
That is part of how we get better, right? It's a pacing strategy. It's an energy management strategy. It's a pain management strategy. So that's more how I approach those kinds of things.
I love that. I mean, because, like I share, forgiveness is not just about saying I'm sorry. It's not. Forgiveness is how we take care of ourselves, how we treat others, what's going on in our lives, and how we move forward. That's my take on forgiveness. And so in this, I love that, where you change your actions, because we need to go there first. Like I said, when you got all that going on in your head, you can't control the thoughts at first, but I sure can do something.
That's right.
And if I keep showing up, just suit up and show up. I remember hearing that, suit up and show up, and then the thoughts will come, because then I become the person that shows up. I become the person that does this one thing.
That's right.
That whatever you are encouraging them to do. And, and I think, and then we become more of who we want to be, because that's really who we're forgiving. Where, when it comes to self-forgiveness, it's like I work a lot with people with forgiving who they used to be.
Yeah.
Whatever that was.
That's right.
Right. And it's when you think of it, it's not forgiveness per se. It's just really learning to love all the parts of us.
That's
really.
Right.
So I like your approach, because I think we need both. I think we need the scientific on how we can work with our brain and our bodies. And that, because I have to do the action before I can really stop and sit with myself to feel my thoughts and to understand, where am I?
Really? Yes. And I think sometimes too, a lot of the fears that we have about things, right? Like how people are going to react if I say no. Right?
Yes.
When we can actually take a small action, maybe not a high stakes no, but a low stakes no.
Low stakes.
And then see that people didn't completely freak out. That then becomes evidence that now maybe I can say no to something bigger. And that's just one example, but that's true for all of it. If we can do the little things, that gives us then evidence to do something a little bit bigger.
I would imagine that's part of your framework too, yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I talk about taking stupidly simple steps or stupidly small goals, right?
Yes.
Because if they're too big and you can't do them, then what was even the point, right? I want, with my clients, what we are trying to do isn't I mean, yes, we're trying to get you better, but part of that process is rebuilding that self-trust and that self-belief that I can do things, right? And so sometimes that starts with something so small that like you could trip and accomplish it.
Oh, I like that.
Because it's at that stage of the game, it's less about the thing you're doing and more about the self-trust of I set that goal and I did it.
I love that. Do you have an example? Is there something that shows up a lot that like a small, stupidly small step?
Yes, there is. So there are a lot of things that we have to change, right? Like whether that's, like I said earlier, saying no, maybe making some dietary changes, changing your sleep. Like there's a lot of things. And what I do more often than not is the very first step, the very first goal for people is awareness. This week, I just want you to pay attention. Right? Like, okay, if you do the thing, great. If you don't do the thing, that's fine too. But pay attention. Like, why? What happened around that? Like that information is so important. And I practice a very practical kind of mindfulness, right? Paying attention in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and just knowing like, if I do this, how will I feel? Right? And okay, I did that. This is how I feel, and that then informs us so that we can better manage things because now we have this information that we didn't have before, this awareness we didn't have before of how various things, may affect us or what helps me get back to baseline faster and easier. It all starts with awareness.
Oh, I love awareness because, when I started on this work years and years ago, I didn't realize how unaware I was. Right? I thought, oh, I'm in tune. No, nope.
And when you have a chronic illness, we kind of check out from the neck down, right? Because we have to get through our day.
Abs, especially like you mentioned earlier, as a mom or as someone who's got bigger, anybody now, we've got so many responsibilities. And, I remember my sister, I mean, she wasn't able to do anything, but she would push through, but you could tell, I mean, totally, I'm going to call it out of body. I mean, it was just totally, she wasn't happy. She wasn't, she just had to get it done and then was even more exhausted.
Yep.
And so it wasn't fun for her. It wasn't fun for us. Plus we felt helpless. And so, I think creating that awareness is amazing. And it's hard.
Yes. I talk about that being an example of a stupidly simple goal, but you're right. It is hard. It is hard.
It is.
Because like you're talking about paying attention to unconscious things. And unconscious means you're not aware of them.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. I know. That's the part right there. It's like, well, how do I know? Well, how are you reacting? That's how we can tell. Am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? Am I not caring? Just let's see.
Yes, exactly.
We just start there. It's like, okay, I know it's so funny, but people realize once you start doing that, once you create the awareness, you can't uncreate it.
That's
right.
And
I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And it just gets us closer to us, right? To coming back home. And speaking of coming back home is the body. And part of this process that I want to hear your story. I want you to share, if you wouldn't mind, your personal story, because the forgiving of the body you had to do to get to where you are.
Oh, yes.
And, and how, you had to honor yourself, right? And your journey. And I mean, that's why you're teaching. I mean, it just is such a big thing that I'm so grateful for that you're doing. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you'd share
how
you got here and where you're at now.
Yeah, so we can't cover the whole story because it's a whole lifetime.
Yeah, I bet.
I was one of those kids who always had something going wrong, right?
Okay.
I mean, even from day one as a baby, I remember my parents talking about the fact that when they would change my diapers, they'd have to wash me off under the sink because like it was, anyway, we don't need to go there.
Messy.
But issues from the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. And I remember getting to a point, this was the summer after my senior year of high school. And I was just like, I don't know why I was reflecting on everything at that point, but I was, and just thinking about my body. And I remember just saying, like, God, if my body was a car, it would have qualified for the lemon law by now.
That's awesome.
Like there are just so many things wrong.
Oh my God, that is so funny. and I get it, but it is kind of funny.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it's like there's all these things wrong. And if I was a car, I would have been able to like say, hey, this car wasn't made right. But we can't do that with our bodies, right? So that was like really the first moment where I remember with such clarity thinking, I'm broken. And I very much felt like there was the real Tami stuck inside this body that doesn't work right. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And fast forward many years after that, I married my husband and was diagnosed with fibromyalgia about 6 months after we got married, which is a whole other thing. But I was doing as a new wife. I can't remember if I had gotten my fibromyalgia diagnosis or if this was in that first 6 months. Yeah. But I was doing like a lot of us women do and making comments disparaging my body, about its size, its shape, what it can do, like all these things, right?
Yes.
And I will never forget, my husband just like stopped. He was walking through the room and he just stopped and he looked at me and he said, every time you say stuff like that, you're basically calling me a liar. And I was like, this has nothing to do with you. Come again. Like, what? And he's like, yes. He says, I chose you. I think you're beautiful. And when you say stuff like that, you're basically calling me a liar. Totally stopped me in my tracks. I was like, okay, maybe there's another way to look at this.
Oh my gosh, that was fantastic.
Wasn't that amazing?
Yes.
I mean, this was in the very,
painful.
Newlywed days. So, take that with a grain of salt. But
well, you take it personally.
But yeah, I was like, I never thought about it like that. And I started just like, sort of thinking on that, journaling about it, like all the things. Yeah. And it came to me that, my body and I, we are actually on the same team. We want the same thing. We want to feel, my body wants to feel good, right? Yeah. My body wants to be functioning well. And on top of all of that, my body was made to heal. Right? We cut ourselves, we break a bone, it heals. Like that's how our bodies were designed. And so we're on the same team here. And I was treating it like it was this defective thing, like the printer that doesn't work that you like, smack on the side. Like that's how I was treating my body.
Right.
And that really was a huge turning point for me. My body and I, we are on the same team. How can I support her so that she can support me? Oh. And that foundation was the foundation for everything else that happened. It was, now I have a reason to eat the things that I should maybe eat to give my body the building blocks she needs to be able to repair. Right. Yeah. It gives me the reason to go to bed, get the sleep I need. Right. It's that realization then became the foundation for me to be able to do everything else. So for me, when I talk about self-care or self-love, like that's what I'm talking about, that foundation. Because if you and your body aren't on the same team, if you don't think about it that way, if you're thinking about like you're fighting with your body, then like you can't get anywhere. Self-care isn't the massage. It's not eating salads. It's how you talk to yourself when nobody else is listening, or maybe your husband is listening. And it's that approach that we take, that attitude that we have towards our bodies.
Oh, I love that. And that's part of, I'm sure, your framework too, because that's where we want to get to, is to be able to collaborate with and work with and love on, because our body is just giving us this. I always say, it's just giving me information. It's
That's
telling
right.
me where something's out. It's not, dis-ease is that dis-ease. It's not in ease. And my body wants, homeostasis. And so it's just talking to me, and I was realizing how abusive I was being to it. It's like,
Oh
I
my
wouldn't say
goodness.
these words to other people. I mean, we hear
No,
this a lot, but when you stop and you really pay attention to how much during the day, like that awareness piece you talked about, when I stop and I do that, even today, even as a coach,
oh, absolutely.
I have to do my own reviews, right? And take
That's
my own
right.
inventory, because I'm like, ooh, Brenda, that nope, nope,
No, no,
not. My body's listening.
that's right. That's right.
That's what I tell myself. My body's listening. Hello.
And the actions that we take too. I had been reflecting back on, things I would do in my life, right? So, staying up way too late because I'm playing a video game. Well, sleep deprivation is how we torture people.
Right?
Right? Or going all day, I would have these quarterly projects at my work at the time. And when this would come in, we would have to turn around it as quick as possible. And so I would be butt in chair working on this project, no breaks, no going to the bathroom, no drinking any water, no lunch, right? Like, again, that would be considered abuse if you had an employee that you locked in a room and didn't let them leave. But we
Yes,
do that to ourselves.
we
We would
do.
never treat someone else this way, ever.
Never. It sounds, with this awareness that you had, like, I love this little domino effect of, wait a second, oh, let me listen for a minute of what he said. And okay. And then maybe I can treat myself better. It feels like, the self-love, the self-acceptance, self-forgiveness. I put that all into self-forgiveness because it's all a part of it. It's all
Mm-hmm.
this process. It sounds like it unlocked something for your healing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, at the time when we go through these things, I'm sure you've experienced this too. Your special magic in the world, right? Like, we do these things, and to us, it's like, well, yeah, I just did that. And to other people, it's like, but how? Like, that's just like some amazing thing. And for me, it was just this, like you said, it was just like this domino effect. But then also realizing that this was the foundation for everything else. This was what made everything else work. And now that my body and I, like, that we're on the same team, it became a whole lot easier to, like, okay, if all the pieces of my body work as well as possible, then the whole is going to work as well as possible, right? So let's check let's check the thyroid, let's check the nutrient, if I'm deficient in something, let's check the sleep study, right? Because at that point, then it's not a matter of discovering, oh, here's another thing where I'm broken. You're discovering, that's another thing where I can support my body. I can help make that whole again. And now we're all a little bit better, right?
Yeah, I love that, because that's where I think it gets into the strategic part, right? So we can move in. Because I know, like, for me, having chronic pain for so long, it was like just kind of in the emotional piece.
Yeah.
Like, I just
Yeah.
need to fix it. I just need to fix it. I just need this. And it's so heavy. But when you get that little, I'll call it a mindset shift of, wait a minute, let me bring my power back. Let me feel my agency. Now I can be in collaboration with, let me run this test, like you were just saying. Let me run that test. Let me see how to support the body, the wholeness here, my brain, body, all of that. So that's how it sounds like it shifted for you, which also gave you like the steps
Absolutely.
of how you can help other people. Cause it's like, oh, I did. Then we can tell people how we did it.
How we did it. Exactly.
How we did
Exactly.
it.
For me, addressing fibromyalgia, managing fibromyalgia is like a three-legged stool. And I feel like our traditional medical system is really good at one of the legs, maybe two.
Yeah.
And our natural world is really good at two of the legs.
Okay.
But we don't see all three all together. And so the legs are, first of all, there really are things going wrong in your body, right? We need to check the hormones, the neurotransmitters, there's sleep study. Like there are things going wrong. And that's what our medical system tends to be better at.
Mm-hmm.
The second leg of that is that lifestyle piece. So things like, what do you put in your mouth? What do you eat, right? What's your bedtime routine like? What are your habits, pacing, all of these kinds of like, what do you do day to day? And I think a lot of our health coaches are really, really great at that. And the third leg is kind of what we're talking about right now, which is that mindset piece, how we think about our bodies, how we think about our illness, how we talk to ourselves, right? All of that is that third leg. And sometimes we'll have coaches like you who are really great at that part. But our medical system is not looking at all three of those legs. And so we have to go outside our medical teams to, we need to add people to our team, right? To fully get this treated and managed. But really, it was, like you said, being able to look back at what I did to be able to really kind of identify these things. And every single thing, I told my doctor once when I left with yet another diagnosis, I was like, oh, yay, something else I can help my clients with. At least at this stage, I'm like, it's all learning.
Right. I know, but isn't that a great place to be instead of attacking or feeling bad or, shaming ourselves? It is like that. It's like, okay, here's another learning opportunity.
That's right. That's right. And you get to a certain point, you're actually more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
than you are when everything is just status quo.
Absolutely. And it takes a little bit to get there.
It does.
So for those people who are in the middle of it, it's like, okay, hang on, get support around it because, you can get there. Definitely.
Absolutely.
And so where have you, because you've been in remission, I think you called it remission. Is that correct?
Yes. And that was actually, I want to be super clear, that wasn't a word I chose. That was something my doctor said in an appointment. She says, I want you to know, I consider your fibromyalgia to be in remission for several years now. The last time I remember any fibro pain was 2018. And I was in a hotel sleeping on a bed that was way too hard. And like, I can see exactly what happened there. But yeah, it's been almost 10 years now since I've had any fibro pain. And I like telling that story because I want people to know it's possible. But I also sometimes hesitate to tell that story because it took me a long time to get there. I was diagnosed in 2007. So that was 10 years to get there. And so for some people, like where you are as you're listening to this, looking ahead, it's like, am I ever going to get there? Like, I want you to know it's possible, but also don't let that bigness of that keep you from starting, right? Because if I hadn't started, I wouldn't be here either. Like, we've got to start.
You have to start. And what I love about you is like we talked about in the beginning, is you provide structure. We need in this process, when it comes to chronic pain, especially, some sort of structure, small steps, guidance, because we don't have to do it alone. And I don't think I could have done it alone because I was stuck in this head of mine. And that's a place I don't want anybody to go sometimes.
Right. And also sometimes you just can't see your own stuff. You can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so we need somebody on the outside to be able to look with an objective viewpoint and also holding in our hearts the vision you have for the future that you want, or we can hold that vision for you if you can't even see it, right? Yep. And to be able to help guide you out. Like if you could imagine that you are lost in a forest, somebody who's lost in the forest with you is less likely to be able to get you out than the person in the helicopter who can see where you are and where the edge of the forest is. Right?
I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's a beautiful analogy. Exactly. Yeah. That explains coaching right there. Good. It's really good. Helicopter. Yeah. I do want to touch on a little bit about the medical system. Not to go into too much because that can be a touchy subject. But when you were going through your process, and I'm going to say it like this about forgiveness of the medical system, because we, and everyone that you work with are advocating for themselves. It's like, is that a mindset shift, right? That gets us to be able to look at the medical system differently, because you just described that, because I think that would help me get to forgiveness and be able to advocate for myself better. Because it's not passive, right? Forgiveness is not passive.
No,
it's
and you have to keep doing it too.
Yes.
It's not a one and done.
No, discernment, I think. Yes? Would you use that?
Yeah. But also a practice, right? Where it's something that you are continually doing over and over, like meditation, right? You don't do it once and then you're done forever, right? It's something that you keep doing. And I see forgiveness that way quite a lot, because there will always be things to forgive, and you will have those moments kind of like grief, right? Where it just comes back again and I thought I dealt with this, and you have to grieve it again or forgive it again, right? Yeah. But the medical system is a touchy one. I mean, this is where we get our diagnosis, right? So it's not like we can avoid it. We have to work through it. So I think the statistics that I'm about to share have shifted a little bit. I think it's gotten a little bit better. But at the time when I was diagnosed, it took me about 5 years to get a diagnosis. And about that time, it was about 5 years, 5 doctors to get a fibromyalgia diagnosis. I actually had to get married and get different insurance in order to get a diagnosis. Because before that, my insurance was through an HMO, and HMOs are really, really great if you fit in their little box, right? Mm-hmm. But I was not somebody who fit in the box. So I remember sending a message to my primary care at that point, like, could I have fibromyalgia? And her nurse wrote back and was like, I'm not sure what that is, but let's make you an appointment and you can come in. I'm like, why would I come in?
Right.
This doesn't sound like I'm going to get answers. Right. So yeah, it's hard. And that's part of both the forgiveness and the advocacy, right? Mm-hmm. That we have to know there really is something wrong, and I have to keep looking for that answer, right? We have to, you are the only person who lives in your body. Only you know what that feels like. Even if somebody else is looking at an X-ray or an MRI and saying you're fine, something's not fine. And so keep looking. But the other thing too, I think that helps with this forgiveness, it has really shifted for me the more friends I have who are doctors and the more I see behind the curtain, right? Okay. So here in the United States, it's only about 9 hours in medical school that they will get on pain management. 9 hours, all pain management. That's not just fibromyalgia. That's not even just chronic pain. That's all pain management. 9 hours. If you put them all together, you could do it in one day, right? Wow. Of course they don't know what to do with us, right? Fibromyalgia itself, many medical schools, it's just like a 1-sentence mention as part of everything else. Right. And if you think about what our primary care doctors have to know and do, their knowledge is basically an inch deep and a mile wide. right? They have to know a little bit about a lot of stuff and then be able to refer on. So they might look at fibromyalgia and say, maybe they can recognize it and say, yeah, that's fibromyalgia, but they're not going to know how to treat it. They weren't taught how to treat it. And part of that, if we take another step back from there, the research that's being done on fibromyalgia is not correct either. I don't mean the research itself is wrong. I mean the balance of research. Okay. So again, another statistic. A study looked at how much research was published on fibromyalgia versus other conditions in rheumatological journals, and they found that fibromyalgia was tied for last. Rheumatoid arthritis had 17 times as much research published as fibromyalgia.
Wow.
Now, when we look at the population, how many people are actually diagnosed with these conditions? 17 times as many people are diagnosed with fibromyalgia as rheumatoid arthritis. It is literally backwards.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
So when you know these things, I think it becomes a little bit like it's not your doctor's fault, right? Yeah. Because they only know what they were taught. They're a product of the system, right? The system, however, maybe we could blame, but there definitely is a lot of work that needs to be done. There needs to be funding for research so that we can have more research done. When the research is built up, then that changes what medical schools teach.
Yes.
Right. And so it's a snowball that sort of has to grow. But I think knowing those things, at least for me, helps a lot in the medical forgiveness category, because I can see it's not just that they don't like fibromyalgia, right? They weren't taught. They don't know. Yeah. It's not their fault.
Yeah. And I think thank you, because I think that's a really important point. If we know better, we do better, right?
Yeah.
And then they have only so many hours that they can look at something too outside of what they normally do, right? Just like we do. And so, and so I can see where you're coming from. And I think that's important to bring into the forgiveness conversation is, okay, we have the emotional side and we have this other side, this practical, physical side that we have to bring in to the whole conversation. And I love, from what I understand, what you do is addressing this kind of structurally or systematically with people you're addressing, like the emotions and lifestyle and all that, and getting there. Because once we address those, then we can look at the whole systems. Then we can start to go, okay, it's not really that fault. It's not really, and I had to get there too with a surgeon that I had nerve damage from a surgery.
Yeah.
I had to forgive too. And it took me a while because it was like that, she should have known better. And it's like, well, later I could get to, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, things happen, right? In surgery.
Absolutely.
And so maybe not. And so, so I think that's a really good point to bring up. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And as we get to a close, because I could talk to you for quite a few hours.
I feel like we're just getting started.
I do too. I know we're like getting into the deeper stuff, and it's like, yes, let's keep going. But okay, we won't. I guess what I'd like to think about here is, for someone listening that's in the middle of this or beginning of this, what are like 2 to 3, maybe some tangible steps, things that they could do just to begin today?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, as patients, I think we absolutely have to educate ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Because like we just talked about, your doctor doesn't know. And even if you were seeing one of the fibro specialists out there, in order to make good informed decisions as a patient, you have to know something, right? You have to understand it yourself a bit. So that is the first thing, is really, if you are dealing with fibromyalgia or you think you might be, then educate yourself. Obviously, I've got a podcast. That's a great place to start. If you're listening to this, you're a podcast person. So just look for the Fibromyalgia Podcast. You'll find me. But books, other resources. If you go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com, there's a resource section and a bunch of free stuff out there. So
you have a book too, right?
I have two. Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. Take Back Your Life is really like the treatment guide. It's actually the textbook for my training program. So that would really give you all the fibro information. And then my second book, The Fibro Coach, is really about finding work that supports your health because that's what I had to do. So yeah, but those are out there. So that's the first thing, educate yourself. The second thing is start that awareness process. There is an assignment that I give all my students, and it's called the Book of Me. I might also call it the Book of You if I'm talking about yours, but it's a place where you write down all the things that you are learning about yourself. So here in Seattle, one of the things in my Book of Me is don't go out during rush hour. Avoid 4 or 5.
Yes, absolutely. I am in agreement.
So what are the things that, especially paying attention to what makes you feel better, what makes you feel worse? Are there people? Are there situations? Are there foods? Are there habits? Are there what are the things? Just paying attention. My favorite one that a client wrote down, all in caps, never, ever, ever eat Cheetos again with 5 exclamation points. And I think just the way that she wrote it says so much, right? Because this wasn't I ate Cheetos once and felt bad.
No.
This was a few times. And I think it's also a good illustration of why it helps to actually write it down because we forget these things, right? And we're like, oh, don't eat the Cheetos, right?
Right.
So start your Book of You. Just start making a note, whether it's in your phone or notebook, journal, whatever, the things that you start noticing. When I hang out with this person too long, my pain goes up. Oh, yes, I need to make sure I have a chair that has a cushion. I can't just sit on a bare, wooden chair, whatever it is, right? Make those notes. So that's a great place to start. And if you are someone with fibromyalgia, I'll give you 2 very specific medical things. Everyone with fibromyalgia should have a sleep study. Sleep apnea is 45% of fibromyalgia patients have sleep apnea. In the normal population, it's 1/10 of that. So it is a huge amount. Basically, right? Flip a quarter. Heads or tails. That's kind of your odds. So if you have fibromyalgia and you have not had a sleep study, talk to your doctor. You should do that. And then the second thing is checking your thyroid. And that's probably a whole podcast episode in and of itself.
Oh, the thyroid is so important.
Because your doctor probably isn't doing all the tests that need to be done. But those are the 2 things. If you have fibromyalgia, I would start. Those are 2 things I always my very first conversation with somebody. Have you had a sleep study? When was the last time your thyroid was checked? Not that those are the answer to everything with fibromyalgia, but they are such a big piece that we always start there.
Oh, I love that. Now, under your resources, is your quiz under there?
Yes. The Fibromyalgia Wellness Style Quiz. It's a personality test.
Love this.
And, those are awesome. Those are fun.
They are.
I think this is part of that self-forgiveness too. When we know better who we are, how we were wired, I think it's easier to forgive ourselves, right? So this, the Wellness Style Quiz is looking at 2 particular aspects of personality. And they are 2 that are very tied to health outcomes in research. And so we took these 2 and kind of made a grid. And we have 4 wellness styles. There is the playmaker, which is me. There is the ponderer, the perfectionist, and the prevailer. And someone like me who's a playmaker, we are really good at anything we find interesting or fun, right?
Okay.
And if it's not interesting or fun, it's hard to do, right? So you will never see me staying up too late to do the chores, but I might be up too late reading a book or playing a video game or, right? So our perfectionists, however, they might never play. So knowing if I compare myself to that person who like always checks all the boxes, gets all the things done, I am never going to match up because I'm not wired that way.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I love this. Yes.
So I think we have to know who we are and honor that, right? Not try to be somebody different. And so once you take this quiz, it'll give you your answer. It'll tell you what you are. And then you have the option of signing up for an email series where I send you tips. I think it's like 5 or 6 emails where I tell you, like, these are your natural strengths to help you better manage your fibromyalgia. These are your particular challenges to watch out for. Here are the things that are most likely to cause your flares, like me staying up reading a book too late, right?
Yeah.
And here's what to watch for. Here's the kind of support that you need for your personality style, the kind of educational support, emotional support. The email series is really, I think, the star of the whole thing, because it tells you how to better manage your fibromyalgia, your health, based on who you actually are.
Oh, that is brilliant. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Seriously, because that's the first thing about forgiveness that I encourage is, we have a personality and we have our innate self. Right. And so we got to marry those two. And the more we can understand about both, then the better that we are, and we can move forward, and we can just like, like that. I tend to be a little bit more the perfectionist. So I am learning to play.
That's right. That's right.
And it's interesting.
And also forgiving yourself for being a perfectionist, because
Absolutely.
That's who you are.
Absolutely.
Right? It would be like blaming yourself for being born in the United States, or blaming yourself for not. Right? Like, right. It's just like it is, right? And I think when we get to a point where we can look at, there's a lot of stuff we should be looking at as facts, like looking at the clock and telling you what time it is. Like, this is what it is. There's no drama. There's no arguing. When we can get to that place with our health, with our needs, right? Like, I need this. No drama, no guilt put on other people either, right? Like, this is my need, just like it's 4:00.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Oh my God, I love that. And learning to say no that way.
Yeah.
Or yes that way.
Right.
Right?
No drama.
No drama. It's just like, no, not available.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And
yes,
it's like,
I do.
Yeah, it's so freeing to be able to do that. It's like, I don't have to explain to you why unless I want to, but I don't have to. So, I love that. That is so, especially with our health and who we are as a person.
Yep.
That's true acceptance.
Absolutely. And, our schedule, our calendar, fibro people aren't always so great in the morning. And so one of the things I always tell people is, if you ask me, like, let's say you had said, "Hey, Tami, can we do this interview at 9:00 in the morning?" I would tell you I'm not available then, because I am not. You don't need to know. I'm probably still in bed.
Right. Absolutely. Right. No, it's true. And we
not available.
Not available. That's all you got to say is not available. There's no reason. And that's one of the hardest things about teaching boundaries with people, inner boundaries, is to go, you are worth it. You matter. And whatever time you need. Some people like to get up at 4:35 in the morning and they go. And, that's good for you. That's not me.
Amen.
And that's okay. But it took a while for me to get there, to be able to not feel shame around not doing it the way everybody else did or what was expected of me.
Yes.
And loving myself and accepting myself has been such a game changer. Tami, thank you so much for all that you shared, for your story, for all of the information, and about going on this journey of the body and forgiveness and chronic illness and acceptance and love and really putting yourself out here to help other people because of what you have gone through. I mean, I think that's why we're here.
That's right.
And what we do. So thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank you for reminding us that healing doesn't begin with force. It begins with compassion. Yeah. So thank you for that too. And so for all the listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, especially if you've been quietly battling your own body, I want you to pause. Notice the tone you use when you speak to yourself, like she talked about. Notice whether you're at war or whether you're willing to lay down any weapons that you're using. And remember that self-forgiveness isn't about pretending you're not in pain. It's about choosing partnership over punishment. And if you're living with fibromyalgia or loving someone who is, you can take Tami's free fibromyalgia wellness style quiz at fibroquiz.com, and we'll put that in the show notes. And that'll be a gentle step toward understanding how you naturally cope and how to work with yourself instead of against yourself. I think I want to take that, Tami, just for the personality piece. And if this conversation stirred something in you, shame, grief, resentment, longing, that's your invitation. Your invitation to go inward a little bit, learn about yourself. You don't have to fight yourself anymore. Start with the willingness to bring in the energy of forgiveness. And please remember that you matter. I'm so grateful you're here. And thank you so much for caring and being here with us. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.